Resident Evil 4 is an interesting game. If you are familiar with Capcom, what were they planning with this game, and the state of the Resident Evil franchise it was in at the time, you know what other YouTubers have said about Resident Evil 4. It once had a Hookman builds that had fixed camera angles and a dynamic camera, trying to emphasize the horror in interesting ways. But this is how the game ended up, what you see here on screen. Funnily enough, it was the thing that made the franchise super different. The game during dev time that made the team too weary of going full action. Funny considering where it was going the franchise after 4, considering the trends that 4 started with the franchise for years to come, according to many fans who don't like Resident Evil 5 and 6. But at the same time, RE4 for some reason gets a lot of praise in the video game landscape. Why is that? Well, let's talk about it. This is my review on
Resident Evil 4.
This RE is different from the horror/action game REs I've covered so far on the channel, from RE2 through 3 Remake and Code Veronica. RE4 ups the antics a lot with the action. After shooting enemies' limbs in RE4, you are rewarded with button prompts, allowing you to do physical attacks for your rewards, like suplexing a Spanish priest to shooting a dangerous stranger in the ankle, crippling them, and then following it up with a kick. Enemies in this game aren't zombies, but are called the Los Illuminados, a strange looking Spanish cult you'll be running from and gunning in RE4. When it comes to the Los Illuminados, there isn't much variation when it comes to them, and that seems to try to be mitigated with giving them different kinds of attributes. When you blow off their head, it reveals a Plagas parasite inside them and on this mountainous island. And this happens periodically with the enemies of the Los Illuminados when you blow off their head. Sometimes they have the parasite that sprouts from out of their head and it makes them difficult to kill, or just a little bit weary, or you know, their head just blows off and they evaporate into nothing. To mitigate this problem with the lack of variety in these enemies, in the late game of RE4 they start throwing you more of these enemies with weapons and so on, and to be honest, their perception is greatly diminished because they're not as threatening or maybe as they were in the opening hours of RE4, and you know, you start to like kind of breeze through them. RE4, despite being way more action packed than RE3 and RE2 though, don't get me wrong, it still has some horror aspects to it, like elements that left me spooked even. I didn't want to even leave my inventory menu at one point in the game because it was quite spooky in my opinion. And that was when they started revealing regenerators and Iron Maidens in RE4. Seeing the first one in the lab lying down with the scary ambient music playing in the background spooked me the hell out, along with the several regenerators hanging in a lab. But you know, moments like this are mitigated when I remember I'm Leon Scott Kennedy surviving ridiculous circumstances and doing backflips and suplexing priests. It's cool doing all these button prompts and suplexing folks, but it hinders the horror aspects of this game, and I think it is a bit spooky, RE4. To be honest with you guys though, I am a bit of a wuss when it comes to horror games. I find RE, the series, when it comes to horror, not too scary, and I believe, guys, I get scared easy. Believe me. I find the RE games easier to get into than other horror games, like, let's say, Outlast. I almost said Outlast. Because I find they aren't too scary, specifically RE2 Remake or RE3 in particular, and are kind of quirky, have interesting characters with silly, corny one-liners that I can appreciate. And you can specifically see the corniness when characters deliver their lines in like classic RE, you know what I mean? Like the PS1 versions of RE2 and RE3. You see like the corny versions of those characters, like the dialogue and all that. And you, oh my god, you specifically see that in Code Veronica. If there's a remake, I'm off tangent here, but if there's a remake that really needs to happen, Code Veronica needs it. But yeah, that's me going off tangent. The gameplay is fair, and it's a fun RE. The colors in this game are pretty flat and aren't as colorful in a game like Resident Evil 3 Remake, but it is trying to be a little bit of a horror game, RE4, so I can understand why they were going for the flat, foggy, dry color saturations. The game is very lenient on ammo drops, as there are crowds of plagas infected enemies with ways of dealing with them. Enemies, when they evaporate, drop ammo, and you find plenty of ammo in the fields. You also have a merchant appearing a lot in the game, which he sells you weapons and goods, while you can also increase your inventory and upgrade your weapons capabilities. Now, about the story in RE4. You are Leon Scott Kennedy again, who is on a mission to rescue the president's daughter, Ashley Graham, who is captured and being held prisoner on a mountain island, isolated, and it is around the religious cult that is the Los Illuminados, and you have to save her from being infected by the Plagas virus. Now, the game is fun, it's very enjoyable, and if you haven't played RE4 before, I definitely recommend it. Give it a try, and go past the clock area and give it a good play. Give it a good try. The characters are fun, they spout one-liners, they don't take themselves too seriously. Characters like Lewis crack jokes. You might want to hear them for yourself. It's kind of funny what he says about the president's daughter. But yeah, it's a fun game, the action bits, might hinder the horror bit, but if you enjoy the action, this game is definitely for you, But yeah, that's my thought on RE4 overall. It's a great game, and yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.